मन जाकर राखो जी, गिरिधारी लाल। मन जाकर राखो जी,
This is episode number 32. Shri Krishna is leading Arjun, is leading all of us from the works, what we call Karma Yoga, performing the actions intelligently, and what is intelligence, how we should perform actions so that they will not bind us, because actions can bind us and actions can also release us. If we put it in a simple language, it is the selfishness built in the karmas or the actions that causes us all the problems. So, in nutshell, if Shri Krishna had to talk to us, he would say, be selfless and then perform your actions efficiently, be indifferent to the results, because I have built in proper results. Results will be given to you. It is the manner in which you are performing has a problem. Results have not an independent existence. Results are based upon the manner and attitude through which you work. So pay attention to your attitude, be selfless, be indifferent to the results, don't waste energy in what will be the result, because in so doing you are already ruining the result, because that much energy and time we have wasted in putting all that into the performance of the work. So if our mind remains unperturbed by the thoughts of results, then, and if we will have the evenness of mind, I think that necessarily our actions will have our focus, our attention, putting all energy towards that goal, and we will certainly succeed. There is no question about it. If we want freedom, and I think all of us want freedom in life, then we will have to free ourselves from the anxiety of results. When we say don't worry about results, we are not saying that you are not going to have good results. But the anxiety itself causes us to ruin the results, because our performance will have anxiety, and anxiety does not allow us to perform our works efficiently, as he says. So these are some of the fundamental understanding about the actions, the karmas. We hardly find anywhere in today's culture or even in the past culture these teachings in action. Wherever they were put in action, like Mahatma Gandhi or Mirabai or others, they have proved the benefits of those results. But the worldly do not take the benefits of what they have been teaching us or even showing us. These slokas are all leading us, Karma Yoga, into what we will call the real wisdom. Wisdom doesn't come by reading books or merely listening to saints, even though it is necessary and good to listen. It is a way to wisdom, but simply listening will not do. We will have to grasp thoroughly by paying attention and then execute it as perfectly as they are advising, and then see for ourselves whether the advice was right. Saints do not want us to accept anything blindly. God has built in these results, these laws, the energies, but we don't put all of them together to our benefit because of our ignorance or illusion. Last time we talked about Slok 51. We mentioned that the wise, possessed of this evenness of mind, abandoning the fruits of their actions, freed forever from the fetters of birth, they go to the state which is beyond evil, beyond, and now when we talk about evil, it is birth and death, it is these desires that enslave us, it is these desires that cause us to lose our peace, our joy, our inwardness. It disturbs our happiness in reality. And therefore, we should pay attention to these words. Every word is properly balanced, well thought of, well experienced by many saints. Uh, Gita really is wonderful as any scripture. We want to pay attention to this. This is like our mother talking to the child, and mother always wishes well to the child. Everything in Gita is to uplift us, to help us to restructure our life, to give us the proper direction. And the most beautiful thing is that whatever we will be doing never hurts anyone else. As a matter of fact, the good of others, our good is in the good of others, and others' good is in good of us. So it is like environment. If we spoil the environment, then everybody will be hurt. We think that I am not hurting others, but we are all related. If we spoil the air or water or earth, then we are all going to be the victim of it. If that is so, and if we have only one sun that gives us the energy, and the beauty of the sun is that it gives us constant energy, it gives us light, it never stops, never complains, never distinguishes whether he is a Hindu or a Muslim or a Christian or a Buddhist or whether he believes even in God or not. The sun gives us the energy and light irrespective of our acts. If the sun can do so without distinction, performing its action of sending us energy and light, then imagine God who made the sun and God who is nothing but love and compassion and peace. How would he or she be making any partiality to any person anywhere, whether it is on this earth or any other earth? So it's something we understand through the sun, and yet when it comes to practice, we act like children. We ruin our beautiful life. We become selfish and lose such a wonderful opportunity to enjoy the universe that Lord has made for us merely to enjoy. There is no other purpose in making the universe. There is no other purpose in making us, or the purpose of God in creating all the nature that He has, except that we all live in harmony, we live in peace, we enjoy it, we appreciate it, we glorify God. We glorify God when we glorify ourselves and others. We glorify, of course, the messengers of God, and Gita is the message of God, and we are part and parcel of that message. So, if we can put things together looking toward unity rather than trying to disintegrate, which is our ignorance, which is our illusion, which is a misteaching, and even though unfortunately we suffer wars, we suffer deaths, we suffer diseases, we suffer shortages, and yet we don't meditate or learn from these evil experiences or sufferings that God is sending us a message. Anytime we are suffering or we have a pain, there is a message, whether it is an individual suffering, family suffering, or a national suffering. Whether there are wars, there are droughts, there are floods, earthquakes, or whatever other diseases that we suffer, there is always a message. saints have told us that there is a message that we must wake up and think about the path we are taking and see if there is a need for correction. There is always a need for correction. The question is, where do we need to correct ourselves? So these are some of the thoughts should come to us when we meditate on Gita. Let's move on to the next slok. Let us always the words of the Lord. I think that if we listen very carefully and peacefully, we should not need so much of commentaries, explanation, because then again we will be getting more and more confused. And yet, unfortunately, we don't have the intelligence, or we are not taught in universities or in our house or by religious teachers. Nowhere this thing is taught except by saints who are rare, and we don't even know where to find them who really wishes as well. So the difficulty remains. But we have the book, we have some intelligence, we are tired of suffering, anxiety, disease, pain. We want to get rid of it, but we sometimes don't want to do anything about it. Well, we cannot get something for nothing. It will not be thrown at us. Arjun wants that he can escape this performance of his duty, but God is not going to permit such a idea of avoiding the duty and hoping that everything will be all right. If Arjun does not fight, everything will not be all right, because Duryodhan will take over, and rulers like Duryodhan or dictators, you know what they create, havocs. As a matter of fact, even in democracy, we have more of very much ignorant views, so we don't really know whom to call dictators and where to call democracy. I think if we have desires, and if desires are ruling, then there is no democracy. And everybody has desires, their own angles, and so whether we call democracy or dictatorship, we are all subjugated to these desires which are selfish and takes away our real freedom, and that we will see later. The slok number 52, Yada te moh kalilam buddhihi vyatitarishyati tada gantasi nirvedam srotavyasya sutasya cha. Now Lord says that gradually as you have performed your actions the way I recommended, and when your intellect, when your understanding, when your discrimination will go beyond illusion. This world is an illusion, it is a mirage, it is an image, it is a picture. The real thing is behind it, and so we want to learn to distinguish between this mirage and the reality. Every person has a reality in him and also a mirage. What we see by these eyes, which themselves are mirage, we see only outside thing, while we should be going inside. The reality, unfortunately, is inside and cannot be seen by these eyes, because the eyes themselves are under the influence of mirage, according to our Upanishads and the experiences of our saints, that all the organs are defective, and if the organs themselves are made defective, then they cannot see or understand anything that is not defective, and God alone is not defective. So organs will not be able to help us. The intelligence is not going to help us. But selfless actions will help us. We will not know how it will help, but it will create faith, it will create love in us, and it will certainly lead us to that peace we are looking for. So Lord says that when your intellect will go beyond these rituals, nirvedam. Nirvedam means beyond the Vedas, and Vedas here means rituals. False works that we have created. When we will go beyond that thing, when we leave them out, just like a false work, when we build a building, after the building is built, then we should drop and remove the false work. We should remove these havans, these Vedas, all kinds of rituals that we are doing should come to an end sometimes. It may be all right for children when we don't have any understanding. But how long we are going to remain children? Most of us are grown up. Our life is almost, we are in the middle of the life or almost towards the end. and yet we act worse than children. In spite of all the understanding and education we have, we continue our rituals. Sometimes I am asked that how come the educated people are also performing the rituals like the uneducated in the villages. We call people in the villages who haven't attended Stanford and Berkeley and Harvards and Columbias, we call them uneducated. But those uneducated people are also uneducated because they also go through the rituals, and the educated also are going through the same rituals, sometimes worse, because our pride, this education has nurtured our pride. So these performing rituals have nothing to do with education as we call it or what we have defined it. The real education is to go beyond illusion, beyond the desires that confirms us and that confronts us, that constrains us, that makes us slave. And all the education today we have makes us more slave of our own desires, our pride and vanity and our arrogance. That is what is being taught in the universities in the name of science. We don't learn humility. We don't learn to respect those who are not educated in the same universities. We, we always create competition, complexes, superior. The purpose of education was to remove those differences and think of others as same as us, because we are all created by the same Lord. So if we have this kind of understanding, then we can say our intellect has gone beyond illusion, and then we will not have this confusion of what we have heard, what we are going to hear in future. We debate about everything. We debate in our corporations what went wrong or what should be done. There is no end to the meetings, and everybody wants to talk. And ultimately, when we have no conclusion, we will say, let's have another meeting, because now we are tired. We have been talking about for hours and hours. I remember the incidents when Mahatma Gandhi was he was in the meeting, and all the senators, as we would call, or his associates, everybody wanted to talk. And if he gives them half an hour, they would always ask for 10 minutes more. If he gives them 1 hour, they still ask for 10 minutes more. So he said, these people who wants to talk are never satisfied. They always want to talk, and their talks have very little substance anyway. He knew that. He hardly talked about it. He could do it in 5 minutes. He would not take the 6th minute. Yet today we learn that we need to talk. We are getting connected with cell phones. We have these computers. We have newspapers. We have TVs. We are never satisfied no matter how much we talk. We never want to listen to anybody. We don't want to listen to ourselves even though we are talking, we are not listening. Our mind is somewhere else. So this debate, this talking, these discussions, this listening to Bhagavats and Ramayans is an endless thing. We have been hearing and hearing and hearing all our life from day one, and yet our life has hardly changed. We think that by listening we have finished the job. By attending a lecture in the temple, we have finished the job. By listening to somebody who talks about scriptures, we have finished the job. So listening seems to be the practice. No, listening is not the practice. There is a difference between listening and practicing. There is a difference between prescription and medicine. And there is a difference between medicine and consumption. And there is a difference between consumption and really getting benefit or removing the disease. So until the disease is removed, it is not removed, no matter how many steps we have taken. Until we find peace, until we realize that we are part and parcel of God, until we see unity in this variety and variety in unity, that even if we are different, we are still belonging to the same ocean, same God. Then until then we are not going to, according to this slok, we will not find peace. If that is what, and we do want peace, we are all looking for peace, and yet we don't know where to look peace, how to look for peace. We go on only talking about peace, but talking about peace does not mean we really want peace unless we understand these scriptures, and all scriptures are teaching us, leading us towards peace. So we talk one thing, but our hearts want something else. We cannot and don't want to give up our vanity, our pride, our superiority complex. We don't want to yield to anybody. We want everybody to yield to us. If we get a chance to talk, we just feel that here is our opportunity, and we don't think that others need an opportunity to express their views also. I myself found this in many of the meetings, engineering conferences that I had attended in the past, and I don't think that most of the people were really even listening. We had the finest speakers who might have even experience. They would perform. I know Dr. Einstein had a lot of theory that he had experienced through laboratory, and he was explaining that I'm not saying anything hocus pocus. There is science behind it. I have experienced it, but no matter what he is talking, when you look around, people are dozing or yawning, or they just hope that the guy finishes his talk, because half of them were drunk anyway. They had what they call happy hours. So we meet there with something, and our actions are totally different. We just don't know where our mind is. We just love to show ourselves. We are tired of our action. We want something different. But even when we do something different, spending so much money, we hardly pay attention to the objective for which we gather in these large meetings and seminars, and nowadays what we call shows. They are really the shows only. I think we are all wanting to show off and not paying attention to the reality. So these slokas are really telling us that let's cool off. Let us sit down for a while. Let's stop thinking for a while. Let's go in big basin, or let's go in a forest, or let's go where there is no disturbance, so that we may be forced to think, because then there is no disturbance, no telephone and no television. Sometimes I find that whenever we suddenly get telephone, no matter what is happening, even when I'm talking about God, the guy who is listening just runs from the telephone as if he has never seen the telephone or never heard, and the talk is always nonsense anyway. So this curiosity, we just don't have any sense at all of any reality. Even if we are told many times to disconnect the telephone, we just cannot do that, because we think there is a very important message coming. And we have been collecting so much messages. Other day my friend was telling me, when I told him, what are you doing here, sitting in front of your computer for hours and hours? Then he said, well, my computer is full of junk mail and junk messages, and I have been unable to spend time to remove it. So I have been just going through removing the junk. So, and then he couldn't find what was useful in it. So this is our life. We have been collecting junk whether we know it or not. We have junk mail, we have junk shows, we have junk messages coming. We just are so confused, and this mountain of useless information, that we don't know what is right information. We can distinguish, and so we might even throw away what is good. So unfortunately, this is what it is. Our ignorance has simply created information, but it has not helped us towards peace. So that is what, when we say Srotavyasya Sutasya Cha, we create information, we hear about it, we still are going to create lots of information in the future, but we don't talk about it. Is it really helping us? Is it really bring us peace? Those who are after making money certainly will want to give you more and more and more. There is a fad in our mind that bigger the better, and we will come to that pretty soon. But this ignorance, very, very fundamental error in our thinking, then causes us all the problems. If our triangle is not correct, then our building will not be straight either, and certainly sooner or later is going to fall. So this message gives us so that our building will not fall, our life will not be confused, and we will not find frustration at the end that all that I did, all the education I got, all the hard work I did was for nothing, or it all turned into ashes. So Lord here says that we will have to learn this thing, go beyond the illusion, don't spend too much time in hearing. There is a lot of hearing yet to come. just just close your ears. Even if they go on talking, you meditate on what we are talking about it. Go beyond the Vedas, go beyond the rituals, and yet people are doing rituals. So they say we don't like rituals, we don't benefit from anything, and yet they go on and on and on. There is so much hypocrisy, there is so much helplessness, there is so much stupidity and ignorance that sometimes we wonder how to help them, even though they say we need help, we like the teachings of Gita, and yet they go on to the rituals because that's where they find food, that's where they find this competition, arrogance, show off, all the things that they want, the food and the clothes they show, all these things they love. And so they want to go there, and yet they know they are not finding peace. They are finding peace here, but then they don't want to practice. These are some of the things I have heard, I have experienced. People are even complaining to me, and yet when I show them these sloks or show them the teachings of this, they say, well, we cannot do it. We are worldly people. We have these duties. We have responsibilities. We have obligations. How can we do this? So sometimes under this Maya, we feel helpless, and yet I certainly feel that no, I don't feel ever discouraged. I think that sooner or later we will get tired of our illusion and our creation that we have created out of Maya, and we will turn towards the path of peace because we know in our heart we all want peace. The next slok, slok 53, Shruti vipratipanna te yada stasyasi nischala samadavachala buddhi tada yogam avapsasi. Then we were, remember, talking about yoga. We want to connect ourselves to God. Well, we don't need any instrument to connect because we are God within ourselves. We don't need anything to connect to ourselves. Connection is always with others, and that means pain. Anytime you need connection, you know you are asking for pain. So Lord here says that karma yoga means you have to perform actions in such a way that you get connected to yourself. You find peace within yourself. What a beautiful thing. Then we don't have to run around. We won't need cars. We don't need anything to find peace because wherever we are, that is where peace is. So Lord says when the intellect tossed about by the conflicts of opinions, and oh, we have conflicts of opinions. I would like you to go and listen to the United Nations speeches, or in the Congress, or in the Senate, or the people who stand for elections. Oh, we have endless and endless conflicts of opinions. Everybody has opinions, and nobody is listening to anybody's opinions. We just go on shouting. Whoever can shout louder, he thinks that he has given his opinion, but as I said, everybody is yawning. Nobody has interest in what you are talking because they know you are a hypocrite, and yet they support the hypocrisy. Strange as it is. We don't like our leaders to be hypocrites, but they are hypocrites because we are hypocrites. We have elected them. So the whole cycle. So we got to find some wise person who is beyond both and who can guide us, which is what Mirabai is, which is what Gita is, which is what all the saints are. So when we will go beyond conflicts of opinions and will become immovable, we are determined that God is right, Gita is right. I don't want to listen to anybody else. I will listen only to the saints. As Mirabai said, the only company I like is of the saints. I am happy there. Everything else is just pain. And so it says that if we become immovable, means strong in our opinion or our expressions, and if we are firmly established within ourselves, then we will be achieving self-realization. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat.